my name is Louis Ruggiero. Welcome once again to the King Messiah Project. This is part 2 of a 2-part series titled Refuting Full Preterism. The subject is Matthew 24:34. Now, if I had $1 for every time I heard a full preterist cite this verse to try to justify to the public what they believe, I'd probably have a lot of money. Now, let's look at the verse and let's see what Jesus said. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Now, the full preterist will allege that this generation is the generation that Jesus was speaking to at the time, and that all things would be fulfilled in that present generation. But was he referring to that current generation, or was he speaking of a future generation? To find out, we need to go back and find the context of the verse. So let's go back a bit and pick things up in Matthew 24:17 and read forward all the way to verse 34. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake those days shall be shortened. Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. Now here's the key verse, Matthew 24:29. This is what it says. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Now look what it says in the following verse, in verse 30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Let's take a look at this. Notice the importance of this passage. The Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven occurs immediately after the tribulation of those days. Now let's move on to the next passage. Matthew 24:31-33 states, And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender, and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. Likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Now this is a critical passage in the text. Keep this in mind. In AD 70, Israel wasn't gathered, rather, it was dispersed. It was scattered. Full preterists need to understand that there's a big difference between a gathering and a scattering. So since a scattering took place in AD 70 and not a gathering, the full preterist is now on the hook. Full preterism is exposed as false. Now let's take a look at Matthew 24:29 again, where Jesus said immediately after the tribulation of those days. When is the gathering going to take place? The gathering is going to take place immediately after the tribulation of those days. Now, since a scattering took place in 70 AD, since both Jews and Christians were scattered from Jerusalem in 70 AD and not gathered, clearly this passage has not yet taken place. It has not yet been fulfilled. So when we look at Matthew 24:34, where Jesus said, Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass, the generation that Jesus was speaking about would be a future generation. That this generation is not the generation that Jesus was actually speaking to at that time. Now here's another way we could prove this point. Let's tie in Matthew chapter 24 with Luke chapter 21. Now in Luke 21:24, Jesus prophesies the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. This is what he said. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. See, There's the scattering, not the gathering. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. What does this verse tell us? This verse tells us that there would be a scattering first. And then, when the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled, then there would be a gathering. Then Matthew 24:31 would be fulfilled. A scattering first, then a gathering. Remember, both Jews and Christians were scattered from Jerusalem in AD 70 when the Roman army came in and destroyed the city and destroyed Israel's temple. Let's read Luke 21:25-26 together. This is what it says. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Now let's take a look at Matthew 24:29, which pretty much cross-references Luke 21:25-26. It says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Let me explain. Let's take a look at the similarity between these two texts. Signs in the heaven will clearly occur immediately after the tribulation of those days, immediately after the gathering, not the scattering. There's a scattering first, then a gathering. According to Matthew chapter 24:31, there's a gathering that has not yet taken place. Now let's take a look at Luke 21:27 and Matthew 24:30 and see the similarity between both verses. This is what Luke 21:27 says. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Matthew 24:30 says, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Now when will this take place? Clearly, let's backtrack. What does it say in Matthew 24:29? It takes place after the tribulation of those days. And look what it says in Luke 21:24. It takes place after the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Pretty clear now, isn't it? Keep in mind that no one who lived in AD 70 ever wrote that they saw the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Keeping that in mind, let's move on to Luke 21, verses 28-31. This is what Jesus said. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. And he spake to them a parable. Behold the fig tree and all the trees. When they now shoot forth, ye see and know of your own selves that summer is now nigh at hand. So likewise ye, when ye see these things come to pass, know ye that the kingdom of God is nigh at hand. Now here it is, Luke 21:32 and Matthew 24:34. These are cross-referencing one another. This is what Jesus said in both verses. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all be fulfilled. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important because of the next two passages we're going to be putting on the board. Let's take a look at this. Now, here's a summary. In Luke 21:24 and 32, when Jesus said this generation shall not pass till all be fulfilled, he wasn't speaking about the generation that he was speaking to. He was speaking about the generation who would be alive when the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And in Matthew 24:29-34, when Jesus said, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled, Jesus was speaking about the generation that would be alive immediately after the tribulation of those days. He was not speaking about the generation that he was speaking to. Another key passage is found in Matthew 24:31-33, where Jesus said, and he shall send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. There's a gathering here, not a scattering. A scattering took place in 70 AD, not a gathering. So when we apply that to Matthew 24:34, where Jesus said, verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled, Jesus was speaking about a future generation, not the generation that he was speaking to. So when Jesus said in Revelation 22:12, "Behold, I come quickly," he didn't mean that he was coming in a few years like full preterists would have you think. What he meant was, when he returns, he would return suddenly, without any warning at all. Now this concludes part 2 of our two-part series, Refuting Full Preterism. Remember, I know that none of us can know the exact time of Jesus' second coming, but he did say that we would know when he's knocking at the door. When I hear that knock, I'll be counting the days. On behalf of the King Messiah Project, this is Louis Ruggiero saying, God bless you all, and we'll see you soon.